Have you ever watched a man you care about carry the weight of unexpressed emotions, seeing pain in his eyes, sensing unspoken fears, witnessing his silent struggles, yet feeling completely helpless to reach him? But then you realize that your man always avoids sharing his pain with you, as if something is holding him back. That's just how men are. They want to enjoy success with you, but when it comes to failure, they often prefer to go through it alone. I'm Vernon, and in today's video, we're going to uncover 5 powerful things you can do to help men open up, share their feelings, and truly connect with you on a deeper level. Stay tuned, because what you're about to learn might just change the way you communicate with the men in your life. Before we dive in, make sure to hit that like button, subscribe to the channel, and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss out on more insightful tips and strategies like this. Now, let's explore the first thing you can do to help him open up. Key number 1. Create time without agenda or pressure. One of the biggest obstacles men face when it comes to expressing their emotions is the underlying pressure of time and expectations. In a world filled with deadlines, responsibilities, and constant demands, men often feel they need to be on all the time, performing, achieving, and always having a purpose. This leaves little room for them to relax, reflect, or just be in the moment. Creating time without agenda or pressure is the first key to unlocking deeper emotional connection. This is about offering him space that isn't tied to an outcome. No need for a conversation to solve problems, no expectations to fix anything. Just a simple moment to exist together. Whether it's a quiet walk, sitting in silence, or sharing a meal without the pressure of deep conversation. These moments allow men to lower their guard. This reflects what the ancient Chinese philosophy of Taoism calls Wu Wei, action through non-action. When you create pressure-free time and space, you allow men's natural emotional rhythms to emerge without triggering their defensive responses. Dr. John Gottman's research on emotional connection shows that meaningful sharing often happens during what he calls low-key togetherness, shared activities that don't explicitly focus on emotional expression, but create the conditions where it can naturally emerge. The key insight here is that men often need to feel emotionally safe before they can access their emotions. This means they need a space where they don't feel judged, where they don't feel the weight of expectations, or the need to measure up to some idea of what they should be feeling or doing. Pressure, even if it's well-intentioned, can actually have the opposite effect. It can cause them to shut down, retreat, or distance themselves emotionally because they feel like they're not allowed to be vulnerable or express what they truly feel. When you create agenda-free time, you're sending a powerful message. There's no expectation here, no performance required, just space for whatever wants to happen. It's about removing the pressure to react, to speak, or even to act a certain way. This gives him the freedom to simply be, without fear of not measuring up to some idea of what he should be feeling or doing. He'll feel more at ease to open up, share what's truly on his mind, and be more vulnerable.
Sometimes the greatest connection doesn't come from what you say, but from the silence you share together, where neither of you feels the need to perform. But creating time and space is only the foundation. The next crucial element involves understanding that men often process emotions differently than women, and honoring those differences rather than trying to change them.
Key number 2. Honor their processing style, not yours. Building on that foundation of pressure-free time, there's something crucial that many women miss. Men often process emotions internally first before they're ready to share them externally. Understanding and respecting this difference can transform your approach to emotional communication. I saw something with my friends William and Sarah that really stuck with me. When William was having a tough time with his dad's health, Sarah immediately wanted to talk about it. She asked, "How are you feeling? What's on your mind? Let's figure this out together." But even though she meant well, William felt overwhelmed and just pulled back even more. Sarah wisely adjusted her approach. Instead of pushing for immediate emotional sharing, she began saying things like, "I can see this is weighing on you. I'm here when you're ready to talk, but there's no pressure." She gave William space to process internally while making it clear that she was available when he needed her. The psychologist Carl Jung called this introverted feeling, the tendency to process emotions internally before expressing them. Many men, regardless of their general personality type, process emotions this way because they've been conditioned to think before you speak about feelings. I experienced this in my own marriage with Dorothy. When I was dealing with career disappointments or family stresses, Dorothy learned that I needed time to sort through my emotions internally before I could articulate them. She would often say, "I can see you're working through something. I'm here whenever you want to share, but take the time you need." Dr. Deborah Tannen's research on communication styles shows that men often prefer what she calls parallel processing, working through problems alongside someone rather than facing them directly. This might mean sharing feelings while engaged in activities or processing emotions gradually over multiple conversations rather than in one intense discussion. So instead of asking, "How do you feel about this?" try, "I'm here when you're ready to talk about whatever you're thinking through." Instead of expecting immediate emotional expression, create ongoing availability for gradual sharing. What's your experience with how men process emotions? Have you noticed any differences in how you approach emotional conversations? Drop a comment below and share your thoughts. I'd love to hear your perspective. Remember how we discussed creating agenda-free time? When you combine that with honoring their internal processing style, you create the optimal conditions for authentic emotional expression. This naturally prepares us for our next crucial insight, which involves how you respond when emotions finally do surface.
Key number 3. Respond to feelings, not just facts. When a man finally opens up about his struggles or emotions, it's easy to focus on the facts, the what happened or the why it matters aspect. But if you want to truly connect with him and help him feel understood, the key is to respond to the feelings behind the facts, not just the surface-level details. Men are often more comfortable discussing facts, what happened, when it happened, and what actions were taken. This can make them seem more detached or analytical when they talk about their emotions. But what's really happening beneath those facts is often a flood of emotions, and that's what they need you to recognize. For example, when a man shares that he's had a difficult day at work, the natural response might be to ask what happened. What did they say? But this response focuses on the facts, not the emotions that may be lurking beneath them, the frustration, the disappointment, the overwhelm. When men share feelings, they're often testing whether it's safe to be vulnerable. Your response becomes crucial data about whether they can trust you with their authentic self. Dr. Sue Johnson's research on emotionally focused therapy shows that people need their emotions to be seen and validated before they can process them effectively. When you respond to the feeling first, you create what she calls emotional safety, the foundation for deeper sharing and connection. Instead, a response like, "It sounds like that was really stressful for you," or "I can imagine that must have felt frustrating," acknowledges the emotions he's processing. This approach tells him that you're attuned to his inner world, not just the surface events. It creates space for him to feel seen and heard, rather than just explaining himself. So next time a man shares something with you, try to dig deeper into what he's truly feeling. It's not just about the events or actions, it's about what's going on inside. Responding to those feelings creates a foundation of trust and emotional safety, which allows him to feel more comfortable sharing even deeper parts of himself in the future. Creating pressure-free time provides the space, honoring their processing style provides the patience, and responding to feelings first provides the safety that encourages continued emotional expression. The key is learning to hear the emotion beneath the content. When a man says, "Work is really stressing me out," he might be expressing fear, overwhelm, or inadequacy. Responding to the feeling, "That sounds overwhelming," before addressing the facts creates the safety that allows deeper sharing. But even when you master responding to feelings, there's another powerful catalyst that can accelerate emotional openness, and it requires courage from you.
Key number 4. Share your own vulnerabilities first. There's a beautiful paradox in human psychology. We often become emotionally safe for others by showing them it's safe to be emotional with us. When you share your own vulnerabilities appropriately, you don't just model emotional expression, you demonstrate that feelings are welcome in the relationship. When a man finally opens up about his struggles or emotions, it's easy to focus on the facts, the what happened or the why it matters aspect. But if you want to truly connect with him and help him feel understood, the key is to respond to the feelings behind the facts, not just the surface level details. I experienced this profoundly in my marriage with Dorothy. When I was struggling to open up about my fears regarding career changes, Dorothy began sharing her own uncertainties about our future, her anxieties about parenting, her occasional feelings of inadequacy. Her emotional honesty created the template that allowed me to access and express my own vulnerable feelings. This reflects what the psychologist Arthur Aaron calls self-disclosure reciprocity, the tendency for vulnerability to beget vulnerability. When you share authentically, you signal that emotions are not only acceptable, but valued in the relationship. Dr. Kristen Neff's research on self-compassion shows that when people witness others expressing difficult emotions with self-acceptance rather than shame, it normalizes their own emotional experiences and reduces the fear associated with vulnerability. Men are often more comfortable discussing facts, what happened, when it happened, and what actions were taken.
This can make them seem more detached or analytical when they talk about their emotions. But what's really happening beneath those facts is often a flood of emotions, and that's what they need you to recognize. For example, when a man shares that he's had a difficult day at work, the natural response might be to ask, "What happened? What did they say?" But this response focuses on the facts, not the emotions that may be lurking beneath them. The frustration, the disappointment, the overwhelm. Instead, a response like, "It sounds like that was really stressful for you," or "I can imagine that must have felt frustrating," acknowledges the emotions he's processing. This approach tells him that you're attuned to his inner world, not just the surface events. It creates space for him to feel seen and heard, rather than just explaining himself. The key is authentic, appropriate sharing, not overwhelming someone with your emotions, but demonstrating through your own example that feelings are natural, acceptable, and can be expressed safely. This creates what psychologists call emotional modeling, showing rather than telling someone how to navigate feelings. Our final key involves recognizing and celebrating the courage it takes for men to share their feelings. But first, I hope you'll like this video, because your support is a huge motivator for me to keep creating content that helps us all build deeper, more meaningful connections.
Key number 5. Celebrate small emotional expressions. When men do express emotions, even in small ways, recognizing and appreciating these moments encourages continued emotional growth and openness. Psychology calls this positive reinforcement, acknowledging and appreciating desired behaviors to encourage their continuation. When men receive genuine appreciation for emotional expression, they learn that vulnerability leads to connection rather than rejection. Men, especially those who aren't used to expressing their feelings, may not always communicate in grand or obvious ways. Instead, they often share emotions in subtle, quieter moments. It might be a brief look in their eyes, a slight change in tone, or a moment of vulnerability hidden within a joke or a small gesture. These are the small emotional expressions that, when acknowledged, can create a sense of safety and openness. For example, when a man says something like, "I'm not sure how to handle this," it may seem like a simple statement of uncertainty, but beneath that, he's often revealing his vulnerability. Rather than dismissing it or quickly moving on, you can respond with something like, "I can tell this is tough for you, and I'm here whenever you're ready to talk about it." Dr. Barbara Fredrickson's research on positive emotions shows that appreciation and gratitude create what she calls broaden and build effects, positive experiences that expand people's emotional range and build their capacity for future vulnerability. The profound truth is that emotional expression is often terrifying for men because they've been conditioned to believe it leads to rejection, judgment, or loss of respect. When you celebrate their courage to share feelings, you're literally rewiring their associations with vulnerability. Think about how all 5 keys work together. You create pressure-free time and space, honor their natural processing style, respond to feelings with validation, model vulnerability through your own sharing, and appreciate their emotional courage. These aren't separate techniques.
They're interconnected approaches that create comprehensive emotional safety. The key is recognizing that what might seem like small emotional expressions to you, a brief mention of worry, a moment of sadness, an admission of fear, often represent enormous courage for men who've spent decades learning to suppress such feelings. The next time you notice a small shift in his behavior or a brief emotional expression, celebrate it. Thank him for sharing a piece of himself, even if it's in a subtle or indirect way. Over time, these small moments will accumulate and create a deeper, more trusting emotional connection.
Sometimes we need the right companion, the right conditions, and the right encouragement to make that inner journey feel safe and worthwhile. These 5 keys: creating pressure-free time, honoring their processing style, responding to feelings rather than just facts, sharing your own vulnerabilities, and celebrating emotional expressions represent more than relationship techniques. They're acts of love that help the men in your life discover the profound relief and connection that comes from emotional authenticity. What makes these approaches so powerful is that they address the root causes of masculine emotional suppression rather than just the symptoms. They create the safety, patience, and appreciation that allow men to overcome decades of conditioning and discover that expressing emotions leads to deeper connection, not rejection. The beautiful paradox is that when you help men become more emotionally expressive, you don't just improve your relationship with them, you help them become more fully human. You give them permission to access parts of themselves they may have forgotten existed. And you create the possibility for relationships of unprecedented depth and intimacy. Your patience, wisdom, and understanding can be the key that helps them unlock emotional worlds they've kept hidden even from themselves. For any men watching, know that the women in your life aren't trying to change you. They're trying to reach you. They recognize that behind your strength lies even greater strength, the courage to be vulnerable, to feel deeply, and to share authentically. Which of these 5 keys resonates most with your experience? Have you witnessed the transformation that happens when men feel truly safe to express their emotions? Your insights could help someone else create the emotional safety that changes lives. If this perspective has offered you new hope for reaching the men you care about, please share it with someone who might benefit. Don't hesitate to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification, because when we understand how to help others access their authentic emotions, we create the possibility for relationships that nourish not just our hearts, but our souls. Thank you for joining me.